August Granger was gripping his son's tiny hand when he saw the woman collapse in the middle of the crowd. "Zane, stay close," he said quickly, guiding the 5-year-old behind him as he rushed toward the fallen woman. People around her froze, some pulling out their phones, others just staring. August dropped to his knees beside her. Hey, can you hear me?" The woman was pale, her breathing shallow. Her long dark hair covered part of her face, her designer coat crumpled beneath her. August gently pushed her hair back. There was something about her, something familiar, but he couldn't place it. "Call an ambulance," he barked at a guy filming. "Now, I'm okay," the woman rasped, eyes fluttering open. "I just dizzy." "You fainted," August said, his voice softening. "You need to stay still." She blinked at him, dazed, confused. "Where's my bag?" "Right here," he said, pulling it close. It was a sleek black leather tote that practically screamed expensive. "You sure you're okay? You collapsed out of nowhere." A siren wailed in the distance. The woman sat up too fast and wobbled. He caught her by the shoulders. "You need to sit," August said, steadying her. "You've been out for at least a minute." "I don't need an ambulance," she said quickly, glancing around. "Seriously, I'm fine. You sure? You fainted pretty hard." "You hit your head." "No, she looked up at him properly, her eyes locking onto his. "No, I'm okay, just low blood sugar. I skipped breakfast." August nodded slowly. "Okay, but I'm not letting you walk off alone." The paramedics arrived. She waved them off, said she didn't want to go to the hospital. August stayed beside her anyway, Zane clinging to his leg with wide eyes. "Daddy, is she sick?" "She's okay, buddy," August said, brushing his son's curls back. The woman looked at Zane, then back at August. "You're his dad, full-time," August said. "Just me and him." The woman tilted her head. "Thank you for helping me. I was embarrassed." He gave a small shrug. "I'd want someone to help Zane if he fell, or me if I dropped dead in the middle of a sidewalk." That got a tiny laugh from her. "I'm Tessa Anderson." "August Granger," he replied, "and this little man is Zane." Tessa gave Zane a soft smile. "Hi, Zane." "I got a dinosaur in my backpack," Zane said proudly. Tessa's smile grew. "That's very cool." Once the crowd dispersed and the paramedics gave her the all clear, August looked at her again. "You sure you're okay? You looked like you were gonna pass out again." "I'm fine," she said, standing a little slower this time. "But would you maybe walk with me, just for a bit?" "I don't want to pass out alone." "Yeah, of course," August said without hesitation. "I'm not in a rush." Tessa walked beside them, still a little shaky. "So what do you guys do on a Saturday afternoon?" August laughed. "Usually. Library, dollar store, then maybe a stroll through the park if we're lucky." "Big day," she teased. "Well, when you're on a budget, you get creative." Tessa's expression shifted just slightly. "You're a single dad." "Yeah, Zane's mom left when he was 2. Haven't heard from her since." "So it's just us." "I work construction during the week and freelance repairs when I can get him. It's not glamorous, but it pays rent." Her eyes softened. "That's a lot." "I don't mind," he said with a shrug. "Zane's worth it." As they walked past a coffee shop, Tessa slowed. "Would you let me buy you both something, as a thank you?" "You don't have to, I want to, please." Inside, Tessa ordered a caramel latte and got Zane a hot chocolate with marshmallows and sprinkles. August just asked for a black coffee. "You could have gone for something fancier," Tessa teased. "I like simple," he said, sipping it. "And I don't like people spending money on me." She tilted her head, watching him. "You've got a lot of pride." He gave her a look. "Is that a bad thing?" "No," she said after a beat. "It's admirable." Zane was busy at the window, fascinated by pigeons. August leaned in a little. "So what do you do, Tessa?" She hesitated just for a second. "I work in finance." "Ah, numbers." "Yeah, numbers. What made you skip breakfast?" She looked guilty. "Crazy morning. I had a board meeting that ran late, then a phone call, then another meeting. I ran out for a walk to clear my head and didn't eat." "Sounds stressful." "It is, but I like it, usually." He nodded. "Well, next time you feel like passing out, call me first. I'll bring you a granola bar." She smiled at that, really smiled. "Do you usually rescue strangers?" "Only the ones who look like they belong on a magazine cover." She rolled her eyes, but her cheeks flushed. "That was smooth." Zane tugged on August's sleeve. "Can she come to the park with us?" August looked at her. "You up for it?" Tessa blinked. Yeah. "I'd love to." At the park, Zane ran ahead, giggling. August and Tessa sat on a bench while he played. The sun broke through the clouds, warming the air. "I don't usually spend Saturdays like this," Tessa said softly. "Me neither," August said. "But I'm glad I found you in that crowd." She looked at him. "Me too." There was a pause. Then she asked, "Do you ever date?" He glanced at her. "Not really, I don't have time." And most women don't want a guy with a kid, struggling to figure out how to afford groceries. "I'm not most women." He looked at her, surprised by her tone. "I mean," she said quickly, "I don't care about that stuff." "You say that now," he muttered. Tessa met his eyes. "I mean it." Zane ran over, covered in dirt. "Daddy, I found a ladybug," August laughed, brushing his son off. "You're a mess, buddy," Tessa helped, gently wiping Zane's cheek with a napkin. "He's a good kid." "Thanks," August said, his voice quieter now. "He's my whole world." She looked at him then, really looked. "You're a good dad, August." He froze for a second, then cleared his throat. "Thanks, that means a lot." They walked her home later to the high-rise building where she claimed she was house-sitting. August didn't ask questions. "Can I see you again?" she asked as they reached the lobby. He blinked. Yeah, I'd like that," she smiled. "Tomorrow, maybe lunch sounds perfect." She leaned in, kissed his cheek. "Thank you for everything," Zane waved. "Bye, lady." "Bye, Zane." As the doors closed behind her, August looked down at his son. "She's nice," Zane said. "Yeah," August replied, still staring at the building. "She really is." The next day, August stood outside the small diner on Westbrook Avenue, Zane's hand in his as they waited. The place was nothing fancy, worn booths, chipped tiles, and the smell of bacon grease that clung to the walls, but it was where August could afford the occasional treat. He adjusted the collar of Zane's jacket and glanced at the time again. "She'll come," Zane said, chewing on the string of his hoodie. "You think so?" August asked, trying to sound casual. Zane nodded. "She said she would." When Tessa arrived, she looked different, less polished, more real. Her hair was pulled into a low ponytail, and she wore jeans and a navy coat that looked like it had been worn before. She smiled when she saw them, a little breathless from the walk. "I hope I'm not late," she said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You're not," August said, opening the door for her. "You look comfortable." "I figured heels don't go with pancakes," she replied, walking inside. They found a booth near the window. Zane slid in first, immediately reaching for the menu like it was a treasure map. Tessa sat across from August, her eyes scanning the laminated pages. "You've been here before?" she asked. "Every now and then," August said. "It's kind of our celebration spot, tooth fairy, kindergarten graduation, that sort of thing." Zane looked up. "Last time we came, Daddy said I could get whipped cream and chocolate chips on my waffles." Tessa grinned. "I like your style." The waitress came by, took their orders, and left them with chipped mugs of coffee and juice. "So," Tessa said, turning to August, "what's your favorite kind of day?" He leaned back, surprised by the question. "You mean like weather?" "No, like if you could plan a perfect day, what would it look like?" August thought for a second. "Waking up with no overdue bills." "Zane sleeping in for once. Maybe a job that pays what it promised. And if there's time left, a movie where we don't fall asleep halfway through." Tessa didn't laugh. She just nodded, her gaze holding his. "That actually sounds amazing." "What about you?" he asked. "My perfect day." She toyed with the edge of her napkin. "No meetings, no emails, just a long walk somewhere quiet, maybe somewhere with trees. I used to like trees." "Used to. I grew up outside the city. There were woods behind our house. I'd spend hours out there with my brothers." Then life got louder. The food arrived, and the conversation paused while Zane dug into his waffles like it was the best thing he'd seen all week. Tessa watched him fondly, then looked back at August. "Does it scare you?" she asked quietly. "What? Doing it alone?" He blinked. "All the time." She didn't ask anything else. Just reached across the table and touched his hand briefly, her fingers cool against his. After breakfast, they walked down the block. The wind had picked up, carrying the scent of roasted peanuts from a nearby street cart. Zane skipped ahead, humming to himself. "I've never seen anyone parent the way you do," Tessa said, her eyes on August. "What does that mean?" "You treat him like he's a person, not just a kid to manage." August looked at her, brow furrowed. "Isn't that how it's supposed to be?" "It should be," she said softly. They reached a small bookstore with a sidewalk table full of used novels. Zane darted toward the bins of children's books, flipping through them with eager fingers. Tessa picked up a battered copy of a travel memoir and turned it over. "I wanted to be a photojournalist when I was younger," she said. "Why didn't you?" "I was told it wasn't realistic, so I picked something practical, something stable." "Do you like it?" She hesitated. "It pays well." He let that sit for a moment. Zane tugged on his sleeve, holding up a book with a cartoon dragon on the cover. "Can we get this one, Daddy?" August glanced at the price tag, $3. He pulled out his wallet and handed the cashier a $5. As they walked again, Tessa looked sideways at him. "You didn't even blink. It's a book. He'll read it 10 times. Worth it." They reached a corner where the street split. Her building was left. The bus stop they needed was right. "I have a meeting in an hour," she said. "But I don't want to go." August looked at her. "Then don't," she laughed, but there was a wistfulness to it. "That's not how it works in my world," he nodded. "Yeah, I figured." She hesitated. "Would you mind if I called you later? You don't have my number." She smiled. "I could fix that." He handed her a napkin from his coat pocket and a pen from Zane's backpack. She scribbled something, then handed it back. "I meant what I said yesterday," she told him. "I don't care about money." "I didn't ask you to." "I know," she said. "That's why I believe you." She leaned down, kissed Zane's hair, then turned to August. "Take care of him, and yourself." He watched her walk away, disappearing into the pulse of the city like she had never been there at all. Zane tugged on his sleeve again. "Are we gonna see her tomorrow?" "I hope so, buddy," August murmured, folding the napkin carefully and slipping it into his pocket. "I really hope so." The wind had teeth that morning, sharp and biting as August carried Zane up the steps of his apartment building. His arms ached from hauling a leaking toolbox across a job site for hours, but Zane was half asleep against his shoulder, and there was no way he was waking him just to climb 3 flights. Inside their tiny unit, he laid Zane on the couch and pulled a blanket over him. The space was dim, cluttered with scattered toys and mismatched furniture that had seen better decades. A cracked picture frame leaned against the wall, the glass long gone. August ran a hand through his hair and stared at it for a beat before turning away. The knock at the door came soft and unexpected. He opened it to find Tessa standing there, her coat dusted with snow, a bakery box in one hand and a hesitant smile on her face. "I didn't know if I should come up," she said. "But you didn't answer your phone and I was nearby." "I left it in the truck," he said, stepping aside. "Come in." She entered slowly, taking in the space. "It's warm in here." "Radiator's unpredictable," August said. "Sometimes it's an oven, sometimes it's a glacier." She set the box down on the small table. "I brought turnovers, apple and raspberry. That's really thoughtful." Tessa turned toward him. "I was hoping you weren't working all night. I finished late. Got stuck fixing a busted water heater on the east side. Paid cash so I couldn't say no." Her eyes flicked to his face. "You look exhausted." "I'm fine." She didn't argue. Instead, she walked to the couch and knelt beside Zane, brushing a stray curl from his forehead. "He didn't even stir," she whispered. "He won't for another hour," August said. "He's wiped." Tessa stood and wandered to the window, peering out over the city's gray skyline. "You can see the bridge from here." "On clear days," August said. "When the neighbor's laundry isn't blocking the view." She turned, her expression unreadable. "I've been thinking about something." "Yeah, I want to take you both somewhere." He raised an eyebrow. "Where?" "There's a place my family used to go when I was a kid. It's about an hour north. Cabins, lake, snow if we're lucky. I think Zane would love it." "I can't just take off work. I already checked the forecast. Saturday looks good. Just one day, no cost to you. I'll handle everything." He shook his head. "Tessa, it's not about money." "Then what is it?" He hesitated. "I don't want to owe you anything." "You wouldn't," she said quietly. "You helped me when you didn't have to. You didn't ask questions or expect anything in return. Let me do this." He studied her. She wasn't trying to impress him. Her eyes weren't filled with pity, just quiet determination. "I'll think about it," he said finally. "Okay," she replied, "but I already booked the cabin." His laugh was short but real. "You don't believe in waiting, do you?" "Not when it matters," she said. He moved to the kitchen and poured her a cup of coffee, handing it over without ceremony. "You're braver than I thought," he said. "Why? You walked into my life like it was your business." "It felt like it might be," she said, taking a sip. That silenced him. Later that week, as snow began to fall again, August found himself packing an overnight bag for Zane. He stared at the worn duffel on the bed, the zipper snagging on a frayed seam. He'd told himself 100 reasons to say no, but none of them felt as strong as the one reason to say yes. Zane. When Saturday morning came, Tessa was waiting outside their building in a black SUV that looked like it had never seen a scratch. The windows were tinted, the tires spotless, and the driver wore a suit. "You brought a chauffeur?" August asked, raising an eyebrow. Tessa shrugged. "I don't drive in snow, it's a terrible idea. Also, I like not dying." Zane bounded ahead, already climbing into the backseat. August hesitated. "You sure you're not overdoing it?" "One day," she said. "That's all, no strings, no expectations." He nodded slowly and climbed in. The drive north was quiet at first. Zane fell asleep again, curled up in a blanket Tessa had packed. August stared out the window, watching the world blur into white. "You haven't asked yet," she said suddenly. "Asked what?" "What I actually do. You said finance." "I did. But that was vague on purpose." He looked at her. "Okay, I'm asking. I run a mergers firm. We acquire failing companies and restructure them." He whistled. "That sounds intense." "It is. I have a board, a team of analysts, and a public image I'm supposed to maintain." "So why are you here?" "With us," she looked out the window. "Because I'm tired of rooms full of people who only care about what I can do for them. You and Zane, you're not like that." He didn't respond right away. The silence stretched between them. The cabin was tucked between tall pines, with smoke curling from the chimney and a frozen lake glinting in the distance. It looked like something from a postcard. Zane ran ahead, his boots crunching fresh snow. Inside, the place was cozy. A fire already burning, soft blankets in a basket near the hearth, and windows that framed the forest like paintings. Zane pressed his hands against the glass. "Can we play outside?" "In a bit," August said. "Let's get settled first." Tessa placed her bag by the door and pulled off her gloves. "There's hot cocoa in the cabinet. I called ahead." August stared at the room, at the warmth, the quiet, the way Zane's laughter echoed off the walls. "This feels unreal," he said. "Maybe," she said, standing beside him. "But it doesn't have to be." He turned to her slowly. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not looking for a fantasy. I'm looking for something that matters." His voice dropped. "You think we matter? I know you do." She didn't reach for him, didn't move closer, just stood there, letting the weight of her words settle. Zane shouted from the back room, discovering a toy chest filled with puzzles and wooden trains. August smiled despite himself. "You planned that too?" "I made a few calls." He exhaled long and low. "I don't know how to do this." "Neither do I," she said. "But I want to learn." The fire cracked behind them. Outside, snow fell in soft sheets, muffling the world into silence. August stared at her, at the woman who had walked into his life like a storm and brought something with her he hadn't felt in years. Hope. And maybe, just maybe, something even deeper. But he wasn't ready to name it yet. Not until he knew it was real. August tightened the laces on Zane's boots, tugging the last knot snug as his son wriggled with excitement. The cabin floor creaked under their movement, and the scent of old pine filled the air, mixed with faint traces of cinnamon from the cocoa Tessa had made earlier. "Are you ready for the sled?" Zane asked, bouncing on his toes. "Wait for me," Tessa said, stepping out from the bedroom bundled in a thick scarf and gloves. Her cheeks were flushed, but not from the cold, more like anticipation she wasn't used to letting herself feel. They trekked behind the cabin to a small hill that sloped down toward the edge of the frozen lake, the snow untouched and glittering beneath the late afternoon sun. August set the sled down and looked at Tessa. "You ever done this before?" "Not in a decade," she said, brushing snow off her knees as she crouched beside Zane. "But I've missed it." Zane beamed. "You can go first." Tessa gave August a playful glance. "You sure your old knees can handle this, Granger?" He chuckled. "I can still outrun you any day. Prove it." She climbed onto the sled. August gave her a running push, and she flew down the hill with a wild laugh that echoed across the snow-covered trees. Zane cheered, throwing his arms up. Again. Again. They played like that for hours, until the sun dipped behind the trees and long shadows crept across the snow. Zane's mittens were soaked, his nose red, but he was smiling so wide August could feel it in his chest. Inside the cabin, August wrapped Zane in a flannel blanket and handed him a book while Tessa stirred a pot on the stove. The smell of garlic and herbs drifted through the room. "I didn't know you could cook," he said, leaning on the counter. "I can follow directions," she said, glancing at the open recipe book. "Barely." He looked at the pot. "What is it?" "Something Italian, I think. If it's terrible, I'm blaming the altitude." Over dinner, Zane told exaggerated stories from the day, each more dramatic than the last. Tessa listened the whole time, laughing in all the right places, asking questions like his imagination was the most important thing in the world. After he fell asleep on the couch with the book still open on his chest, August covered him and dimmed the lights. He turned to find Tessa by the fire, staring into the flames, her expression unreadable. "You look like you're somewhere else," he said, settling beside her. She didn't look over. "I got an offer last week. A European firm wants me to come run their division in Zurich." His stomach dropped. "That's a big move." "It is. Are you considering it?" "I was," she said quietly. Before what?" She finally turned to him. "Before you." He didn't know what to say to that. "I've built my life around control," she continued. "Schedules, plans, outcomes, but I can't plan this. I can't put you and Zane into a spreadsheet and calculate if it's worth the risk." He studied her face. "We're not a risk. You're the biggest one I've ever wanted to take." The fire cracked between them. August reached for her hand slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. "I don't know where this goes," he said, his voice low, "but I know what it's done to me. You've made me want things I gave up on." She leaned into him, her shoulder brushing his. "Then let's not give up." They sat like that in silence, the fire warming their skin, the snow still falling outside. It was the kind of moment that didn't need words. The next morning, Zane woke them both by flipping on the cabin's radio and dancing barefoot across the living room rug. "Pancakes," he shouted. "We forgot pancakes," Tessa laughed, throwing a pillow at him. "Then we better fix that." After breakfast, they packed up slowly, none of them rushing to leave. August carried bags to the SUV while Tessa zipped up Zane's coat. "I wish we could stay longer," Zane said. Tessa crouched beside him. "Me too." On the drive back, August kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror, watching the way she watched Zane. Not like someone visiting a life that wasn't hers, but someone wondering if she could belong to it. When they reached his building, August turned to her before she could open the door. "Come upstairs," she blinked. "Now," he nodded. "There's something I want to ask you." Inside the apartment, Zane ran to his room to find a toy he'd forgotten about. August went to the kitchen drawer, pulled something out, and returned to where Tessa stood near the door. He held up the napkin she'd written her number on. "I've kept this in here since you gave it to me." She smiled softly. "It's a good napkin. I want to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." "Okay. If all of this disappeared, the trips, the cabins, the drivers, if it was just us here in this apartment with nothing fancy to offer, would you still want this?" She didn't hesitate. "Yes," he stepped closer. "Then I need you to know something." "What?" "I'm not scared anymore." She looked at him, eyes shining. "Neither am I." He kissed her, then slow, certain, like he'd been waiting for the right moment and finally found it. Zane peeked around the corner. "Are we getting married now?" They both laughed, breathless. "Not yet," August said, looking at Tessa. "But we're getting something better," she nodded. "A beginning." And this time it wasn't just hope, it was real. The first time August Granger walked into the glass-walled office on the top floor of the Lexington building, he felt like someone had made a mistake. The elevator doors opened with a hushed chime, revealing a space that looked more like a modern art museum than an office. Sleek marble floors, walls wrapped in soft gray silk, and a panoramic view of the skyline that stretched all the way to the harbor. Tessa stood behind a curved desk of dark oak, her posture straight, her eyes steady. "You're early," she said, setting down a folder. "Couldn't sleep," he replied. "Zane's at my buddy's place. They're building a cardboard castle in the living room." She smiled, but there was something restless in her stance. "This place doesn't suit me," August said, stepping farther in. "Feels like I'm breathing someone else's air." Tessa rounded the desk and took his hand. "Then let's change that." They walked toward a door on the left. Inside, the office was quieter, fewer people, more warmth. A long table stood at the center, papers spread out like a map of the future. "I've been thinking," she said, "about what we talked about last week." About doing something different. You're stepping back from the firm, I'm selling it. His eyebrows lifted. All of it, I have offers, and they're more than enough. I'll keep a small advisory role for now, but I've already told the board I'm stepping away from daily operations. He sat down slowly, absorbing the news. I want to build something that feels real, Tessa continued, not just profits and acquisitions. Something that does more than move numbers on a screen. What does that look like? A foundation. For single parents, education, housing help, legal aid. We'll call it the Granger Initiative, if you'll let me. August stared at her, stunned. You want to name it after me, you and Zane. Because you're the reason I remembered what people need. He reached for her hand again. You're serious, dead serious. A long pause stretched between them. Then he said, I've been picking up extra work, not because I need it, but because I didn't know how to stand still. Not until now. Tessa sat beside him. Then let's stop running, together. They left the office a little after noon, walking hand in hand down Fifth Avenue. There were no cameras, no flashing lights, just the two of them and the sound of city life moving around them in soft rhythm. That evening, back at the apartment, Zane was sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by cereal boxes and duct tape. Dad, she's here, he shouted when Tessa stepped through the door. I told you I would be, she said, crouching beside him. What's all this? Our castle. We're adding a drawbridge. Can I be the queen? No, Zane said seriously. You're the dragon, August laughed from the kitchen. He means that in a nice way. I'll take it, Tessa said, ruffling Zane's hair. Later that night, after Zane had fallen asleep mid-sentence with his head on her lap, August watched her trace slow circles on his back. You look at him like he's yours, he said quietly. He feels like mine, she whispered. He moved closer, dropping onto the couch beside her. You still thinking about Switzerland? I turned it down. I told them I found something better. He wrapped his hand around hers. I want to ask you something. She looked over. Yeah, I want you in our life, not as a visitor, not as someone who comes and goes. I want you with us. All the time. She sat up a little, careful not to wake Zane. You mean, I want to build something with you, a home, a family with everything that comes with it. The mess, the noise, the late nights, the grocery lists. Her voice was barely a whisper. You're sure? He kissed her then, soft and slow, the kind of kiss that didn't rush because there was no more running left to do. I've never been more sure of anything, he said. 3 weeks later, in the backyard of their new brownstone on the edge of Prospect Park, under a string of fairy lights and surrounded by close friends and the smell of fresh lilacs, August and Tessa stood in front of a local judge and promised each other forever. Zane walked Tessa down the short aisle, holding her hand proudly, a tiny velvet pouch tied around his neck with their rings inside. Do you take each other in real life? The judge asked. Not just in the best moments, but in the ordinary ones too, they answered at the same time. Yes. That night, after everyone had gone and Zane had fallen asleep in a tent he insisted on pitching in the living room, August stepped out onto the balcony with Tessa. You know what I used to think, he said, watching the city lights flicker. What? That love like this didn't happen to people like me. She leaned into him, the hem of her dress sweeping the floor behind her. And now, he looked down at her. Now I know better. She rested her head against his shoulder. I used to think I had to earn love. Like it was something you had to prove you were worthy of. And now I know it finds you when your heart's finally quiet enough to hear it. They stood there a long time, the night stretching around them soft and endless. Inside, the castle Zane had built still stood, the drawbridge open, a dragon plushie guarding the gate. And for the first time in a long time, everything felt exactly where it belonged.